Start Your Dungeons is now sponsored by Level Up Games, the largest and best board game, role playing, miniature games, collectible card game, hobby, and nerd store in Georgia. With a wide variety of events and product lines, Level Up Games is sure to have the product for every gamer you know. With 3 convenient locations in Duluth, Johns Creek, and Athens, there's bound to be a store near you. Plus, they ship anywhere in the U.S. from their online shop at levelupgamesatl.com. Thanks for sponsoring the channel, Level Up Games, and check out their event calendar and online store at the link in the description.
Hello everyone, welcome to Start Your Dungeons. I'm Adam.
I'm Bryce.
And today we're talking about a classic that is in its second edition, Frostgrave.
Yeah, so Frostgrave, kind of big in the skirmish game market because game came out a couple of years ago, was a huge hit, and one of, in my opinion, and I might be wrong on this, I don't know my miniature history as well, but I feel like it's one of the biggest miniature agnostic games that exist.
As far as like indie games go, miniature agnostic, it's kind of huge. It has a really big following online. So as far as, this book, we say it's miniature agnostic. So what comes in this book? Like what does it give you?
So it gives you a lot of options. The thing that's really cool is, I actually want to explain what a miniature agnostic is, because some people may not know. Miniature agnostic means that this game does not have official miniatures that you have to use. There are official miniatures produced for this game through North Star Hobbies, and you can check them out if you want to check out the Frostgrave line. It's beautiful. There's a lot of metal and hard plastic kits. A shout out to their hard plastic kits. Those things are amazing for the price. But for a miniature agnostic game, again, you can use any models you want, anything you want. So really you just need the rule book, which is what this is. And so the way Frostgrave works is you build a wizard warband. You pick a wizard and apprentice and a bunch of fighters heading into the frozen city to find these ancient treasures in this Frostgrave. And really what you get in the book is, the front of the book tells you how to build a warband. You create your own wizard. You pick your own wizard school that you can be, whether it be chronomancer or enchanter or elementalist. You get an apprentice, you pick your warband of guys. After that, the book tells you all about how to play the game. Weirdly, compared to other games, this is a miniature game that uses a d20, which is a huge kind of deal.
And the thing about this game is it feels kind of like an old school role-playing game.
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff to do after you play the game where you level up your characters.
Campaigns.
It's a campaign. So it has a natural progression. There's a story that can go in it. And so it feels different from a lot of skirmish miniatures games.
You're not doing one-offs of this, really. You're really looking to build and grow a campaign. After that, you get the rules for how to do a campaign. In there, they've got 20 scenarios in this version of the book. I can't remember if the first one did. I think it might have had less than the original, 10 or 12. 10. And then you've got all the rules for wandering monsters as well, which can kind of pop in and appear on the battlefield. And then in the back, you've got like a cheat sheet, which I really appreciate. Fun fact, before we move any further with this too, this is the second edition of the game. It did not change a whole lot from the first edition. And if you go to their website for Frostgrave, they tell you what each first edition book's errata is to be played with second edition. So it's all compatible with each other.
So how easy is it to get into the game?
I think rules-wise, it's not very hard. You have basic stats. You have a move stat, which is how far you move. A fight attack, which you use in melee. A shoot attack, when you make a shoot attack action. You have your armor, which is when you get attacked by somebody, whatever they rolled total. So if I roll a 17, I have a +2 to my fight. I rolled a 19, your armor is 12. I subtract that 12 from 19. 7, that's how much damage I take. And then you have a will stat, which is used for countering spells in most cases. And then a health pool stat. When your health pool reaches 0, you're dead. You're knocked out, and then you roll afterwards for campaign rolls. I don't think this system is hard to get into. What I will say in terms of like, well, I'll wait till expansion when we talk about it. But I think for a basic game, like to get into a miniature game, if you already play role playing games, this is not going to be a big jump. I think, and if it doesn't really have a whole lot in terms of like learning stuff other than understanding like the game. Some of the rules are maybe a little wonky, like multiple people in fights, but it's not very difficult, I don't think.
And there's an FAQ on the Osprey publishing website that does a lot of the rules adjudication. Can you easily find information you need?
I'm going to say a little bit of no.
Yeah.
We just played this again after a while. There is no glossary in the back of this.
Or there's no index.
Yeah, there's no index in the back. Disappointment for that. I think there is a cheat sheet in the back that is very well done. You can also print that from the Osprey website for free, which I think is amazing. That tells you through, in a fight, this is every step. In a shoot, this is every step. When you roll dice for magic, this is every step. But we struggled a little bit of going like, well, spells are here, but when you miscast, that's actually in the first part of the book, and there were a little bit of struggling to find some stuff. I don't think it's hard, but I do think like it was to come back to this. Like we play this every now and then. It's one of those ones where like we pick up, we start it, and then we kind of fall back, and we try to keep it going, and then we end up so many other games and stuff. So, but it's good to know that we can come back to this and like. It's not hard to forget a lot, but I will say that the layout is a little bit funky because spells are after the campaign, which is weird to me that all this, like, I get it, all the spells matter and, like, you keep them in one spot, but they're not after the combat rules and stuff. I don't know. A little bit of weird layout, I think.
Yeah. I need an index.
Yeah.
You've got so many different things that interact with each other. You have to have an index.
I will say props to them, though, of always putting page numbers when they say, see this part of combat, page 52. Do like that as a thing.
But since you already have the page numbers that you have accounted for, make an index.
Yeah, do it.
You know?
Yeah, like Osprey, like I think that's something that needs to happen in any game, especially a miniature game. You're gonna have a lot of times where it's like, well, what does stun do? Well, let me look up the stun rule. Let me look up like combat. What about weapons? Different things, because weapons will determine whether or not you do different damage. Like staffs are more defensive in this game, so
I feel like I want to write my own index and
I'm
just
sure
stick it
somebody's
online.
made it.
You
Yeah,
know?
like there's got to be. The thing is, this game has been around for so long now that I feel like the community has probably thrown together something.
Yeah. Does it require a lot of memorizing keywords?
No, there's no keywords really in this game. I feel like everything is just like you make an action and then that's kind of it. Like there's no like you're like you give like you be like you're cursed, but that's a spell. So curse is a spell, so like that does things, but there's no like I'm fast, I'm slow, those are spells that you cast that give an ability, not necessarily like a keyword.
And what about symbols? Are there symbols?
No. I mean it's D20 roll dice system. I'm gonna say it, it's a math game. It's just a math game. Like it's literally rolling a bunch of D20s and adding them up, and it's just basic math, algebra. Not even algebra, just like addition.
Just addition.
Yeah.
So the time that it takes to play the game. So how long is an average game?
What do you say? 45 minutes, an hour? It kind of depends.
Yeah.
This game is weird in that, like, sometimes you roll really bad, and sometimes you just snipe a wizard from across the board with a bow. Like,
and I was rolling anything below 5.
No, you were hot at the beginning of our game.
I was hot at the beginning.
And I was rolling nat 20s and just double damage killing your dudes in one swing.
So bad.
Switched up.
So, is this a complete game? Do you need anything else that to go to an event, if there are any events for Frostgrave?
They do some. There's always a narrative event that's huge in Adepticon here in the U.S., so shout out to them. Here's what I'm going to say about this game. Compared to other miniature game reviews we do, because we've really not done a lot of miniature game book reviews like this, obviously this is not a complete game because you don't have miniatures with it, you don't have terrain. And this is where this game, I think, succeeds and fails depending on what you have in your own house. Frostgrave, all you need is this book. There are tons of campaign expansions, all sorts of, like, there's a great solo If you wanted to play this game solo, like Source
Perilous
Book,
Dark.
yeah, Perilous Dark. You know, there's the Thaw of the Lich King, which was one of the first books that released. Everything always adds more to the game, which is great if you want to add like barbaric people into it. There was the Gnoll race into it. All sorts of different stuff. This system is now used for other games. There's Ghost Archipelago, which is more of a pirate game. Stargrave, which is a sci-fi one. But going to my point, you need miniatures. That can be expensive. Their official miniatures are cheap. I highly recommend them if you're going to do it. You get so many models, so many bits. Like, it is really great.
They look really neat. They have their own unique look.
Very hard structurally, like faces and bits on them.
Yeah, and you can customize them to exactly what you want your warband to look like.
You get 5 bodies, but you get at least 10 or 12 heads, left arms, right arms, weapons, all different kinds of
and you
bits
can see pictures of them in the book.
Yeah, all the miniatures in this are from their North Star lines, and they do a really good job. And there are official ones. Like, if you want to play the Enchanter, Wizard, and Apprentice, they have those, and they have male and female versions now, which I think is really cool. The other thing I'll say about this game, you got to have terrain. Because
lots of terrain.
Lots of it. Because the thing is played on a 3x3, so 3 foot by 3 foot board. And it's also played with line of sight. So if I can see you, I can hit you.
Yeah.
And so in that regard, you want very much to have a bunch of blocking terrain, to have areas where line of sight is cut off. That can get expensive. Again, if you got boxes, books, whatever at home, you can. But I think that's an important thing to understand about Frostgrave is Frostgrave requires a lot of terrain.
Yeah.
The models you only need 10 of, because your warband will never be bigger than 10. If you want to buy more to like go, oh, now I have a knight, I want to put the knight in as this guy, you can. But again, it's your cost comes from, I think, terrain here more than anything else.
Yeah. So who is this book for? I mean, is this for new wargamers, for seasoned wargamers? What do you think?
This game is for people who are looking for campaign games. I think that's a huge thing. You know, this is built to be a campaign. Your wizard levels up. If you're a role-playing game player and you want to start playing miniature games, this game is for you.
I think that hits the nail right on the head.
Yeah.
I think if you like playing old school, like if you like playing the old school essentials, swords and wizardry, you know, any of the old school D&D clones or anything like that, you're gonna find something that you really like in here. I mean, it's just it's so reminiscent of those kinds of things, and also the fact that you're using your warbands to run in and grab treasure, and you know you don't even have to kill each other as long as you run in and grab the treasure and get out of there. And to me, that it is so much like old school kind of role playing stuff.
So I think it hits that there. If you're a seasoned role player, argue maybe not. I like this game, but it is not a very good like competitive game. It is a campaign game. Like I have done games where I'm like, hey, let's start a new campaign. Let's go. My wizard walks out and is like, I'm going to cast a spell, miss a spell, your archer goes, rolls a nat 20 and just shoots him dead. And it's like, okay, well now my warband's just done. Like I have to restart. Like that can happen. There's some silliness there. So I would argue that...
It's very swingy.
Yeah, it's a very swingy game. Because it's a D20 roll. I mean, it's different from a lot of other games with D6s are normally the commons, D8s maybe for most games. So this one, I think if you're a more seasoned player... You want a campaign game? Absolutely look into this. But also, like, understand that this is a little bit less of a serious game, I think, than a lot of other ones. It's very much on the more of a have a fun time. I don't love that word beer and pretzel game, but it does feel a bit beer and pretzel-y.
And you can play it on a 2x2 table. So, you know, just your I mean, we played on this table.
Yeah. We played on a kitchen, kitchen table size.
And I think one of the things about this game that if you don't want to play this game, if you know maybe there's something about the game that just doesn't really fit your style, or you know that maybe you don't like the system, the scenarios in there
pretty good.
You could use because there's so many scenarios. You could use those. You could adapt those to other games.
I'll argue you can adapt them to role-playing games.
You certainly could, especially because there is it has mechanics for controlling the monsters.
Right.
So you could do this as like a co-op, type of monster game, like a role-playing game.
Mm-hmm. And I think really for me, like this one always just fits a good feel-good kind of game. Like I enjoy playing it. And there's those moments when you go, son of a, I rolled a 20 and you rolled a 9. And you're like, oh no, like I'm screwed. My character's dead. And sometimes, and like characters live or die based on rolls at the end. So like, you gotta put all this effort into this knight and all these magic armor and stuff. And all of a sudden he's just dead. Yeah. And it's like, oh no. So I do think like the game is fun and you can build. And I think if you want to, again, play that campaign, or you just love playing and having a thing where you're like, I want my character to grow, and you can see that develop, and like, I will say for this game, love the campaign in it. Small groups, you want bigger groups. You want people to have opportunities. I have seen games or done campaigns where it's 3 or 4 people, and one guy just keeps winning and runs away with everything, and it becomes a little bit rough. They did change that, though, to make XP a little bit capped in this game, which kind of helped a little bit. But, yeah, it can get run away sometimes with the campaign, but not as much now in this one. It just kind of depends on what you roll. Is there anything about this game you don't like in terms of the rule set? Because I feel like it's pretty simple, but is there anything that's like, I don't like this?
I feel like... I think the swinginess where it will you will like everything is going one way and then just suddenly boom, suddenly the table gets flipped. That I don't know, it may take some getting used to. It may not be everybody's style because it's so hard to strategize when you have something going and all of a sudden everything gets flipped on its head.
Yeah, I think that's something that definitely I will say, compared to a lot of his other games Joseph McCullough has made, I don't always love how important your wizard is. So if your wizard dies like round 1 of a game, it's like, I don't get to do anything cool and I don't get a lot of XP now because he's dead. That kind of sucks, I think, sometimes, and I feel like sometimes as a wizard, if you just roll bad, you're not doing anything. Yeah. You're just moving and attempting to cast spells and then missing them all and going like, this sucks. Like, he's not really doing anything other than pinging himself for damage. Whereas in, like, Ghost Archipelago, your leader is great, but he's not as key as the rest of your warband. And I think they learned a lot when they made this edition from Ghost Archipelago, but I will say that sometimes, like, I feel like the wizards feel weak sometimes. If you pick weird classes.
When they're starting out. Yeah. It's really hard to get anything done with them. They fail most of the time.
And I'll say this too. Some classes are way better than others. Like, I'm playing a Soothsayer now. That is probably not a good starting class. Because a lot of the spells are very meh. But some of the other classes are like, you want to take that class because the easier rolls on, like, enchant weapons, enchanting armor, doing all that stuff is a million times better, and you don't want the negative of having it not be your main school and having to make the check harder.
The Necromancer's pretty good, too.
Yeah, Necromancer's really good.
Because you can just...
summon zombies.
Just keep summoning.
Yeah.
I would actually say, before we wrap it up, if you like this, but maybe you don't want to buy in on a competitive game, the Rangers of Shadowdeep game... I like it better.
I like Rangers of Shadowdeep. We'll definitely review that one. Yeah. Rangers of Shadowdeep is different because Rangers of Shadowdeep is completely co-op.
Yeah, so it's built as a co-op game.
Co-op, like dungeon dark crawler sort of thing.
It's supposed to be like you're going into Mirkwood.
Right.
It's very much Mirkwood from Lord of the Rings, but you have your warband and you go in and it has very role-playing game story scenarios, so it leans even more into the story side than this. But I like them both. I just think I lean more towards Rangers of Shadowdeep.
And I'll say too, like, if you like this system but you don't like this, again, Stargrave exists for a sci-fi setting for this, which is, a little bit different in that style. Joseph McCullough is kind of known for this D20 sort of system style. He also makes Oathmark, which is a rank and flank file like miniature game that you can play. So like, there's options available for you, and there's tons of stuff for Frostgrave. This game has been around for so long now that like the community has built stuff for it. They've released tons of different book options, and like if you're looking for a solo co-op campaign, Rangers is great, but you can also try Perilous Dark, and Perilous Dark is actually really good.
That's a good book.
So there's just options available for you, but in terms of like miniature agnostic games, it's hard not to talk about this as one of our first ones because it really paved, in my opinion, the way for Osprey and a lot of other companies to go, maybe we should look into this idea of not having to print our own miniatures and just make books.
Yep.
So
if you have played and you have opinions, please post those down below, and we'll just have a little discussion about Frostgrave. But until next time, bye.
Bye.